We're here today to provide another update on the city's response to the tornado that happened 1 week ago today. We are in conversation now, city leaders, on continuing these briefings through the weekend. Our game plan right now is 1 p.m. over the weekend and through next week. The mayor's office will be providing communication on that here in the coming hours to give you guys a clear timeline on what the mayor's office and other city officials are looking at. Today we will get an update from Mayor Kara Spencer, who is continuing to lead these efforts. We will get an update from Acting Commissioner John Walk from the City Emergency Management Agency. We will then get an update from Greg Daly from the Collector of Revenue's office. We will also hear from Ameren. They're going to provide an update, and then we have Senator Eric Schmidt along with Congressman Wesley Bell that will also be providing an update on the federal relief efforts that they're working on for the city of St. Louis. But in the meantime, we'll open it up to Mayor Kara Spencer.
Thanks, Mitch. Thank you all for continuing to do a phenomenal job covering not only the tornado, but the relief and recovery efforts as we move forward. As you know, today marks 1 week since the most devastating weather event that has hit St. Louis in the last 60 years took place here in St. Louis, and I've ordered the lowering of our flags to half-mast this afternoon to remember those who've lost their lives, lost their homes, and just the huge number of our community members that are experiencing the most devastating times and actions in their lives. And I thank our staff for doing that. As Mitch mentioned, we'll have a brief update from Collector of Revenue Greg Daly, who's taken on some very, very compassionate actions on behalf of homeowners here who are worried about keeping their homes. I'll let Greg fill you in on that, but I just want to thank the collector for being very proactive and very quick in making those compassionate steps. We've had a lot of questions recently about the building labels, the labels going on buildings. I want to clarify, we discussed yesterday that we were aware that the red stickers that were going on homes were scary and frightening and adding to the trauma that our community was experiencing. And I want to thank the media for helping us clear some of that record up. And I am truly sorry for any additional trauma that those stickers caused. We were deploying our building inspectors to provide information to homeowners as it relates to the structural integrity of their homes, to better and best inform folks about how to take precaution as necessary when going into their homes. This is purely informational, and we will not be enforcing any laws as it relates to entering buildings, and we are not condemning any buildings at this time. We are, when we have changed the verbiage on those stickers, we are replacing them and making sure, doing our best to make sure that this message reaches everyone. Thank you for helping us on that. Just about safety and securing, we are just about, again, it's just about safety of the buildings and securing the state and federal funding. As of 2:30 p.m. yesterday, we had 601 severe structural damage. That is the red tags. 502 moderate structural damage. This is the orange and yellow tags, and 620 little to no structural hazard. These are the green tags. We continue to assess buildings. We have not completed that. We do look to complete that in the coming days, but that is where we stand right now. Our team has been hard at work with the state and federal partners to assess damages. That is part of our work to try to get partnership with FEMA. The FEMA has completed its preliminary assessment as of yesterday and will return to us next Wednesday to continue this process. We've been getting a lot of questions about debris management. There is an enormous amount of debris. You can see it piled up. I am so grateful to the community that has been working so diligently to organize this enormous amount of debris. It is truly, truly overwhelming. We are working on a debris management program and a plan to allow for, as quick as possible, removal of this enormous amount of debris. And as locations are becoming full, we are seeking additional disposal locations. We know we do not have enough dumpsters right now. We are asking anybody who doesn't have access to a dumpster to please continue to organize the refuse in a way that helps us once we do get additional dumpster and landfill space ready, that we can facilitate the removal of that garbage out of our communities. And we're really grateful. You see it. People are already doing that. Thank you. It is a tough job, especially considering we are, asking this of our community who have already been traumatized. We are working with Crisis Cleanup to connect more folks. You can ask for help or sign up to volunteer at crisiscleanup.org. The phone number is 314-230-8070. We are also focusing on making sure folks have access to food. We are continuing to coordinate with voluntary organizations active in disaster, the VOAD, to provide at least 3 meals a day to folks who are utilizing our shelter space. We're also offering this to city staff and emergency personnel, and we're doing our best to also make this available to members of the community who aren't currently in shelter, but are sheltering it with neighbors, with family, and other spaces as we move through this. Electrical power, I just want to give a huge shout out to Ameren, who has done an enormous amount of work getting the vast majority of us back on power. We know many of you are still without power, but it has taken a huge effort on their part, and I'll let them speak to that, but it has truly been phenomenal. A couple of other logistical things. We're coming up on Memorial Day. This is typically a time we celebrate the reopening of our pools. We have asked that we delay the opening of pools by 2 weeks out of respect for the enormous amount of work that our parks and our city workers are doing to help this cleanup. That has been in cooperation and coordination with our park rangers and other folks who have really asked for this. We are sorry to the families, but I want to make sure that we are focused on recovery efforts. And as we go into our Memorial Day weekend, we're going to give some of our staff some time off, particularly on Sunday and Monday. Please be respectful of that. These folks have been working overtime for the last 7 days. They'll continue to work tomorrow, but we are going to give folks a little bit of a rest over the weekend. However, we do have a ton of staff coming in for overtime tomorrow. So it's been an unbelievable and incredible amount of outpouring of volunteers. I encourage you all who are volunteering to please take a break as well. You have to recharge. This is going to be a very long haul, and we are going to need you for a long time to come. So please make sure that you're taking a break. Again, a lot of questions about National Guard. We wanted to share as much information as possible. We have had members of the National Guard here. They are doing assessments with us. As we move through this, we'll have some more information to share, but please be aware that they are embedded in our operations as we evaluate how they can be most helpful to us, and we're seeking their guidance. We're leaning on their guidance, and we're grateful for them to be part of this. Logistically, as I ask you to consider taking a rest, also please be very, very cognizant that there are a lot of health concerns out there. We have asbestos, we have other contaminants when we have buildings that are have been destroyed. Please utilize the PPE, the masks that we are putting out into the community. Please be very, very careful about other debris and the safety and the structural damage that buildings have. Just remember, if you don't feel safe, please exercise as much caution as you possibly can. And lastly, I'll ask that folks, we've had some folks engaging in disaster tourism. This is not helpful. We ask you to please refrain from that activity. It's clogging up our streets, it's clogging up the amount of the work that we need to do, and we really need to make sure that that we're respectful of the folks that have lost so much in this. We're really grateful. The overwhelming majority of community has been nothing but respectful, helpful, engaged, and will continue to do that. I want to now hand it over to, I lost the order of operations, our Captain Walk, who is heading up SEMA now, to answer a few questions about, or to talk a little bit about the emergency communication, the good work we're doing now.
Thank you, Mayor Spencer.
Thank you.
So it's been a week it's been a week now, and if you look at the recovery effort, the response and recovery effort, it's been pretty amazing. We have using that word amazing, we have a really, well, good, amazing team put together and are doing great work right now. There's a whole lot of directions they're going. We have them organized into different sectors. But what I'd like to do, just give you a couple of examples of what you might be seeing as you go throughout the affected area, and you can see some of this actually occurring. Well, Mayor Spencer mentioned debris removal. We do have large construction companies that are involved with debris removal. You'll see more of that as time goes on. The other thing is we are trying to ensure that we put out accurate information on flyers and get those distributed to the citizens that are affected. Those are just a couple of examples. The other one that Mayor Spencer also mentioned was we have inspectors. We've gone through multiple rounds of assessments and inspection. There's still more to come, but there are currently others. We have building inspectors and engineers on the ground right now, and then we'll have some more next week too, to assess, so we get an accurate idea of what we're dealing with the damages. And we're pretty much there now, or close.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Collector Daly, would you give us a quick update on what homeowners can expect on tax sales?
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Greg Daly. I'm the Collector of Revenue for the City of St. Louis. The Collector of Revenue's office is responsible for collecting revenue throughout the City of St. Louis to the tune of about $800 million a year. One of the more difficult tasks that the collector has is putting someone's house up for sale when they haven't paid their taxes. During this particular time of just tragedy and just stuff that nobody could possibly imagine, the Collector of Revenue's office has decided to put a pause on any sale of property for payment of taxes. We're going to do this until probably October and continue. I think we all need to take a step back and get focused on what's important, get your house together, get some of the things that have just been totally disrupted over the last couple weeks. And I think that the Collector of Revenue's office wants to be part of that. Mayor, I appreciate the efforts that you have put forth here in the city. I salute you for your enthusiasm and your excitement and everything that you're doing, and the team that we have behind us. We'll get through this. And the Collector of Revenue wanted to be part of that. And I think that, again, it's the least we could do to put a pause on trying to put somebody's property up for sale in this difficult task, in this difficult time. Mayor?
Thank you, Collector. Yeah, thank you. We appreciate your partnership. I know we've gotten a lot of questions about the federal component. Senator Schmidt is here, Eric Schmidt is here with us. I want to point out too that this is the second time that you've joined us here. Thank you for being here. We'd like you to offer what you're doing to support us here on the federal side.
Thank you, Mayor. And I had an opportunity to meet with the mayor earlier. We were at the operations sort of hub and seeing the great work that they're doing, tracking everything, collecting all the receipts, communicating out to the community of everything that's going on. And so we're going to continue to work closely together on these efforts. Congressman Bell and I have had a chance to work together. Just, I guess, to kind of walk through, first of all, I want to thank the first responders, the police officers who are here, the firefighters have been doing really dangerous work, especially at the early hours right after the storm. And Saturday morning, we got to see that last week. They're doing really important work, and that work still continues. We organized a call earlier this week with FEMA. Congressman Bell was on that call to make sure that they understood what a priority it was for us to do these damage assessments as quickly as possible. As of this morning, they have completed those property damage assessments. The governor has prioritized those individual claims ahead of the public. I fully expect the threshold for the public to be met. We've sent out that for the emergency declaration. The congressional delegation's totally united. We sent a letter to the president asking him to grant that. I would expect in a couple of days, since that assessment's been done by FEMA, that another request will come for the governor for a major disaster declaration. Of course, we will support that as well and look forward to that moving as quickly as possible. A bit of news and an update today. I want to thank President Trump for granting the declaration for the mid-March storms on March 14th. The region was hit with storms, and an individual claims will be granted by FEMA for those that storm on March 14th. Later in the month, there was other weather events. That was also granted by the president and notified. Everybody was notified of that today. So we're going to continue to work as quickly as we can to get the declaration and the disaster declaration granted by the president for this storm that happened last Friday, a week ago. And I will just say this, I think that as a native St. Louis guy, I'm incredibly proud how the community has come together. There's no daylight between any of us on this. There's no red jerseys, there's no blue jerseys. We're all working together for the benefit of this community. I think this is the best of us. We've come together after this tragic event on Friday, and I think we're going to be stronger for it. It's not to diminish the suffering that people are having right now, but looking forward, I think that we're working really well together for the common benefit of the people that we represent, and that's a good thing. We probably don't see enough of that, but that's what's happening right now in St. Louis. And the people who volunteered, my wife was able to drop off some supplies earlier this week. We're headed to the Urban League after this. Just the community coming together, people, real people who are helping their neighbors is really encouraging. So we'll continue to work together on that too. Congressman Bell? Yeah.
I think first and foremost, I want to echo the remarks that we heard earlier from not only the mayor, but other leaders, but also from the senator. If anyone questions whether we're working together, I think your question should be answered now. I don't think I've known Eric for a long time, and I don't think I've talked to him this much in these last few weeks than the last 10 years. Same with the mayor, and I think that's exactly what's needed. This is the biggest disaster to hit this region since the late 1950s. And so it's important that we're coming together and working together. A couple things that we want to highlight is that we have a lot of organizations on the ground. We have representation from Annie Malone, who is doing a tremendous work under their executive director and President Keisha Lee. I know at some point I saw the president of the NAACP, the city, somewhere around here, the Urban League, but so many organizations working together. And one thing that our office is doing is helping to streamline those information. So if you got questions, not only can you follow a number of people up here, but you can also contact our office at 314-955-9980. Contact us, and if it's not something that we can answer, then we're going to connect you and find the organization to get you the resources that you need. As Senator Smith talked about, on the federal side, there are two declarations that folks need to be aware of, and those are one is the emergency declaration, one is the major disaster declaration. And we appreciate the fact that the entire Missouri delegation, including Senator Smith, are supporting these declarations. And what our understanding is that the March 14th and March 15th declarations that were signed were for individual assistance, and that is primarily in the county and North County area, and that is what is needed in those areas. We will have more information on how people can apply. We will say there is information that you're going to need to apply, and we recommend that you start, if you're listening to me and you think that you've been impacted or you have been impacted, start getting that information together on damage, on if insurance, whatever information is relevant, start having that information, because there's often a 30-day window to make those applications. We'll try to extend that if we can, but we need people to start getting their information together so when that clock starts ticking, that everyone can apply. Now, with respect to the current disaster, obviously the PDA, the preliminary disaster assessment, is completed, as the mayor spoke of. We'll get those results very quickly, and that will all go into the governor's request for a major disaster declaration right here in the city of St. Louis. And I think everyone is behind that. We know that it's needed. We know that folks here need those resources, and so we're going to do everything we can to make sure that that happens. And let me tell you right now, when that application is sent, the president has to sign on it, and so that is going to be a unified effort to make the case on why that needs to be done, and done quickly. And we know we have Senator Smith, who knows the president well. So any way we can help in that endeavor, Senator, we're here for you. I don't care if it's getting information, resources on the ground, if you need a cup of coffee, whatever you need, we're here to help from our end to make sure that the help that is needed for the people who need it most get it. And that includes the cleanup process, but it also includes the rebuilding process. When this is not a national story any longer, we cannot take our eye off the ball. This is going to be, as the mayor said, a long-term fix, and we got to make sure that we're continuing to rally around everyone to get those resources right here. And the last thing I'll say is that I'll end where I started. This is the biggest and the biggest disaster to hit this region since the late 1950s. If we can't come together now, when can we? So this is not the time to point fingers. This is not the time to try to use political leverage to blame people. This is the time to come together and make sure that we stand up, and show out in the St. Louis region to help the people in the St. Louis region who need it most. So thank you to our first responders, our utility workers. I see Alderwoman Keys, whose district got hit probably the hardest, and she's been on the ground every single day. In addition, Alderwoman Tyus, I think Alderman Brown's district got hit pretty hard. Maybe Pam Boynes and Shameen Hubbard, her district as well. And so we're all rallying around them and doing everything that we can. But thank you to everyone on the ground, our utility workers, our first responders, our law enforcement. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And let's get to work and let's until the job's done.
Thank you, Congressman. Real quickly, I skipped over Ameren. It was not my intention. I know we have a quick update. You guys have doing a tremendous amount of work getting everybody up on power. I think we started with 90,000 down.
All right, thank you, Mayor, and Darnell Sanders with Ameren. And once again, like to lead with some numbers. Yesterday at this time, we yet had approximately 9,000 customers without power. We're down to approximately 3,400. During this effort, we replaced over 650 poles, as well as the conductors that go on those poles, insulators, and so those numbers will be coming out at the end of the event. But we do want to thank all of the other disaster recovery groups that took a step back and let Ameren get in first to restore power, and also to make the zone safe from an electrical standpoint. And now that that has been done, once we have restored all the customers electrically, then you'll see Ameren take a kind of a step back, because we need to clear the way for these other companies to get in there. The communications companies are coordinating with us to see where we can give way to let them in, as well as the debris crews. We're coordinating with them, and so some of the delay in getting debris cleaned up is because of coordination. They've been waiting on us to take a step back so they can get in. And so it may not seem like it's going as fast as it possibly can, but believe me, this has been a tremendous effort by all parties to make this happen, and everybody's been kind of waiting their turn to get in so that we're not interfering or impeding one another. So we ask that the community continue to be patient with all groups, because there is method to the madness. It's organized chaos, but it is coming together, and we hope to continue to coordinate with these groups to make this happen. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you so much, Darnell. Tremendous amount of work. We'll take some questions. I'm going to ask Mitch to come back up and help us field some questions, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Just so we can make sure that we get all the questions answered.
Elliot, should we start with you? Is
Yeah.
your ringer on silent?
I'm a good place to start.
Elliot.
Why
It is so hot.
why has it taken the governor so long to issue a disaster declaration? This is clearly a disaster.
This reminds me, I didn't see you yesterday, Elliot, but the governor was here again yesterday. And I have to say, I mean, the governor is a partner here, has been a tremendous partner. I mentioned yesterday, I called him within an hour of the tornado. He was here boots on the ground first thing Saturday morning, assessing the entire scope of the damage with us. And I have full confidence that our governor is doing what he can, doing exactly what he can to get us.
Why shouldn't
Hold on, we're
that
gonna go.
have-
We're gonna.
Why
hold on,
shouldn't that have been
let the ma-
issued
let
by
the mayor,
now, though?
Let the mayor
That's the
finish.
There's a
question.
lot of work that
I
has
know,
to be
same
done,
question.
Elliot. That, you know, the evaluations, we have been hard at work. We pulled in a team of building inspectors from across the region to help us do the assessments that are required and necessary to get that declaration going. So I know it feels like a long time. You know, I'll say we have pulled in, you know, as everyone has pointed out, just a tremendous team. We are working our tails off to get that evaluation done. We are firming it up, and we are truly moving as fast as we possibly can to get that done.
St. Louis Public Radio.
Thank you, and I have a question for Senator Schmidt and Representative Bell. Are either of you concerned that the president won't grant this emergency declaration like what happened in Arkansas, West Virginia, and Washington State? And if he does grant it, which seems likely because of the damage, is there any concern that there are not enough FEMA employees to actually deal with the applications, given that there's been reports of 2,000 permanent employees leaving?
I don't have any concerns about that. I think the best evidence of that is what happened here. FEMA moved by FEMA standards, incredibly quickly. They've already done their individual property damage assessments. They're already finished. And so if you would ask me a week ago when we were here on Saturday whether or not that would be done by Friday, I probably would have hedged a little bit on that, but they are done. That's a good thing. And to sort of dovetail into Elliot's question, effectively what the governor has asked for, which we're all supporting, was the emergency declaration for kind of the initial cleanup operations. I think it's also important to point out, earlier in the year, there was a grant funding request from the governor for SEMA operations to unlock $47 million worth of grant funding. We were able to get, I was on a call with the governor, Secretary Noem herself, and we unlocked that. And that was very important. So a lot of the response that you see from Task Force 1 and from the Highway Patrol, a lot of those dollars are being used for what you're seeing in the recovery and response effort right now. I think the president's going to move as quickly as possible. The next step here is, once they have all this, and it's important to note, FEMA they don't wait till the end, and this was clarified on our call, they don't wait till the end of their assessment to plug all those numbers in. They do it as they're going. So that number can be aggregated pretty quickly. So my anticipation is that the governor, who's doing a great job, in the next day or two, when he has all that information from what FEMA did on the ground, will make another request for the major disaster declaration. We will quickly then have a letter in support of that, and then it'll be in front of the president. And that will, by the way, probably swallow up the need for the emergency declaration. The threshold for the public declaration, the public assistance, is like $11 million. That's going to be met. And then we'll really get to the individual damage assessments after that. Okay?
Well, I
I'm going to answer that
the
question.
congressman.
And to echo the senator's remarks, but in addition to that, there's always going to be concern because this is our community. These are our neighbors, and so until those resources are delivered, until that check is cashed, yes, there's going to be resources, but that's why we're all working together. And that's why you see we've contacted the Missouri delegation, our senators, our local and state officials, the governor, and everyone is doing everything that they can to make certain that this happens. But no, I'm not going to be happy until not only have these declarations been authorized, but this community is rebuilt. So we got a long way to go before we get unconcerned or happy. And to Elliot's question very quickly, I think, obviously when a tragedy hits, there is no time frame that's quick enough. We're always going to want faster. We always want things to get done as soon as possible. But as we've seen, the governor has been on the ground. Our senators, obviously, our local officials, everybody is working. And our office looked into the average times of FEMA hitting the ground and declarations. We're well within that average. That said, we're not going to sit and rest on our laurels either. We're going to keep pushing because we just left some folks who are homeless as a result of this storm, and they're intense. And so we don't have time to waste, and we want to make certain that we get every resource and bring every resource that we can to bear as quickly as we possibly can. And we appreciate those questions so we can continue to make sure that no one is slacking and everyone's doing everything they can. And right now, that's what we're seeing.
I forgot to say, but let's just repeat the questions that are being asked. People on the live stream can hear this question.
Sure. And Jason, I guess the one other thing to point out, I can't speak to the nature of the storms in Arkansas or other places, but the good news is that the requests that were made from Missouri were granted, and that was announced today, right? The mid-March and then the late March into April requests, those were granted by the president that we announced today. And also just to kind of give a little bit of a background, after I was here Saturday morning, I spoke with President Trump personally on Saturday afternoon to talk to him about what I saw. Literally right before we walked out here, I was in touch with the White House point of contact on this particular issue. I spoke with Secretary Noem twice this morning to talk about it. So Congressman Bell is right. We're all working together, and we want to make sure that St. Louis gets the help that it needs.
Shoshana?
Just kind of going off of that, you mentioned the federal declaration from President Trump today from the March 14th storm. What can you say to people that don't want to wait 2 months to get another declaration?
And just repeat the question.
Yeah, it's sort of the timeline. The question is about the timeline for the declaration. Yeah, look, I would agree that we want to do this as quickly as possible, and that's our goal. There is a process in place to have that approved, and as soon as we get that request from the governor, I would imagine a letter will go out within 24 hours to the president, and then we'll keep in touch with everybody who are the decision makers on this to move that decision-making process along as fast as possible. That is my interest. There's no, like, from here, I love St. Louis, and you see the devastation, as the mayor mentioned, this is the worst, and Congressman mentioned, this is the worst natural disaster here since the 1950s. So we want to make sure that, again, St. Louis gets the help that it needs.
Mallory?
Mayor, you talked about the number of buildings and the number of structures
Yes.
and the stickers. Can you talk about how that's kind of being done? Is it being done in a grid, or what are the areas that you guys have already been to, and what's still that you guys have to hit next?
So the question was really about the volume of buildings that we've already assessed and how that's being done, and whether or not there's a grid involved. Well, I'll have to get the specifics to you. We are doing it in a fairly coordinated effort. I don't know the areas that have been missing so far, but we are committed to to assessing them all. Our goal is to complete that assessment by the end of the day tomorrow. And so you should see us out continuing that work to get those other things cleared up and get them all assessed by the end of the day.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, we haven't met, but go ahead.
No problem. I'm Jay Salam from the Chronicle of Chicago. Mayor, I have a question.
Okay.
In situations like this, normally, the developers come in. They want to come in and take over. What is the city doing to safeguard, to make sure that the city is a part of that process of redevelopment, opposed to the developers coming in and saying, we want to do this?
The question is about what is the city doing to protect against predatory development and developers who may come in and want to take hold of this as an opportunity. What I can say is we don't have that plan fully developed, but we are very cognizant of it. We have a task force, and we'll be reaching out to the community to have this plan be community-led. I'm grateful to the efforts of the collector, who's pausing on those tax sales and those land grabs, if you will, so that we can assess the situation and really put together a community-led plan to ensure that doesn't happen here.
Thank you.
I know this is a huge effort, Mayor. Can you put a number on the number of first responders and other city workers and everybody that's involved in this effort?
We are working on that because it is truly astounding. Every city worker, every first responder that we pulled in from around the region. Over the last 6-7 days, we've seen fire departments from Afton. I could even begin to name them all over. Elliot, I'm unfortunately unable to give you a ballpark number. I don't want to understate it, but it's truly been astounding. We will get that. It's part of our evaluation as we're backlogging it. We'll have that. We just don't have it right now.
Mayor, Senator mentioned the public assistance part.
Yes.
I know we've talked a lot about the individual assistance. Can you sort of speak to, if that is granted, how that will help the recovery effort?
The public component here, the damage to the public buildings and how that will help. It's going to be quite frankly critical. As you may have seen, I know for folks that are in the midst of this trauma, it may not feel like the city is doing enough, but I can assure you we had all hands on deck starting from 3:30 on Friday. And the amount of overtime, I mean, the Parks Department, the crews from Forestry were out just pulling an enormous amount of manpower out of our city workforce. And, you know, to make our departments whole, to make our, you know, all that overtime, I mean, not just that, but our rec centers, the libraries, so many public buildings were impacted by this. It's going to be critical to get us back to where we were. Of course, we want to restore our community. That is a key piece of making sure that we're not building on top of the rubble, so to speak. But we are positioning us to rebuild housing and to build new housing and to really embrace this as a way to bring new neighbors and bring new housing and new amenities to a community that so badly needs it.
I don't know your name.
Keisha Lee with Annie Malone. My question is for Senator and also Congressman Bell. There's an influx of cases that we're seeing at our crisis center for children that have been displaced out of their homes, and also the rest of the numbers are going up that weren't quite budgeted for. And how will some of that funds be allocated towards those that are providing services for children that are displaced in these nonprofits? I know there's a lot of dollars going around about disaster relief and cleaning up, but there's a number of kids that are just on the streets and we're taking them in and they weren't quite budgeted for due to respite services to allow those families to do what they need to do during this event. And we take that seriously because when anxiety is high, that's sometimes when abuse kicks in, and we want to prevent that. So will any of those funds be allocated towards Annie Malone Children and Family Services or organizations like ours to help with that?
Yeah, and by the way, thanks for the work that you're doing.
Of course.
This is a really stressful time for people who are out of their homes, right? On a human level. So thank you for what you're doing. Yeah, that's part of FEMA's role in the sense that if it's approved for the individualized claims, some of those costs related to displacement, whether it's hotel rooms or childcare or things like that, can be included for an individual seeking reimbursement. In organizations, we'll have to look at that. But certainly the other thing that's worth mentioning, this is not, at least from my perspective, this recovery effort isn't limited to just the recovery. There's a pretty unique opportunity now with potentially some grant funding and other work, and this is a conversation for another day in some ways, to rebuild and restore hope in a community that in many ways has had a lot of challenges, been left behind. And at least from my perspective, as I said, I want to be a part of that long-term reclamation of hope in the neighborhoods in North City. Yeah.
Brad from KMOX. Okay, go ahead.
I think the congressman's going to answer that.
Because we haven't been hit by such a tragedy in so long, in this region, there's not a whole lot of expertise, and so we've been taking crash courses because we're going to become experts. And I know because myself and the senator and several others have been on these calls to learn everything that we possibly can. And there are some steps that are some boxes that need to be checked. One is if an emergency or the emergency declaration, and then you also have the major declaration. And those check some boxes and expand funds, which can include organizations, even potentially nonprofits, that are doing the tremendous work that you all are doing, that you know how much I appreciate. And so if we get that major disaster declaration, it really opens up the resources that the city will have, and not just from the governmental side, but on the ground as well, to address some of the issues that specifically that you're asking about. And so we're doing everything that we can. I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to figure out that this is a major disaster. Our office has even requested that the acting FEMA director, Richardson, come and view this region with us so they can see it up close and personal, because as bad as the pictures are, when you're on the ground and seeing it, it's much worse. And so again, I can say this from the mayor's office and our alderpersons, our local, state, our federal officials, Everyone is doing everything that they can. If that changes, I'll be the first to let you know, but I don't anticipate that change.
The mayor has a 2 p.m. So any questions for the mayor? We can.
We haven't talked about public safety heading into the holiday weekend, and you know, it's human nature that this could be pots boiling over this weekend. Could either the mayor or the chief talk about being in the neighborhoods and kind of lowering the temperature?
Well, I'll say real quickly, as a person who has spent every day for the last week in the neighborhoods, I feel safe. I can speak confidently about that. We are keeping the curfew in place. That's been very helpful. This, as the chief pointed out yesterday, we have not seen a spike in crime. That's a very, very good thing. The community has come together. Has really come together, and this is truly a testament to the neighborhoods impacted that we haven't seen that spike. We've been seeing a lot of folks looking out for each other and staying intact within their block. If blocks have been hit in a very unusual way, one house here, that sort of thing, and people are taking neighbors in and making sure they're coming together to protect the community.
So because of our the question is how we're going to keep the neighborhood safer. We're coming to a holiday weekend, trying to see if things are going to boil over. We always have a plan going into the holidays, but with the tornado and the impact zone, I've talked about going to 12-hour tours. So that maximizes how many people I could put in the zone, but at the same time, it puts more officers in the districts. It's not something you want to do year-round, but you do when it's necessary, when you have events like this, and towards the weekend. We would have had overtime out anyway. So we got the districts covered, we have the impact zone covered, and we're going to continue to be here as long as it takes. And even the incidents have been very minimal each day that I report out in the impact zone. As you can see, even last night we had 3 people arrested for a copper wire theft a little after midnight. But you know what? We're working with the circuit attorney's office to make sure those charges are applied and people are not going to come into our area. That's why it's so important to have the 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. curfew. We heard Ameren talk about the lights coming on, maybe 3,000 households that are left. But we still have street lights that are out. And that's also what the streets and the city's working on that as well. And we prioritized Ameren, and now everybody else is following. So therefore, we're going to keep it in place. The community wants this curfew because they don't want people coming in that don't belong there. Even people that are doing voyeurism coming in and what they've been doing that the mayor talked about. So we got a good plan in place. We've been through holidays before, and I have more people on the street than we would usually have at other times. So I think we're very confident in what we can do to make sure that we can keep this city safe, and at the same time, everybody have a great weekend and enjoy themselves who can, knowing and saying prayers and thinking of the people that need help. And if you do have time off, come up here and volunteer in some of these places that we need you the most. Thank you.
Guys, with that, as I mentioned at the beginning, the mayor's office is going to be communicating here later today, I think, Rasmus, about the continued briefings that the mayor's office will be organizing. We are looking through the weekend, including Memorial Day. And so that will be we're thinking 1 o'clock. That's what we're hoping for. So that will come out via email. If there are any other updates, please look at our social media accounts. Thank you guys very much. We'll see you.
Thank you.
What do I need to do? That would be Rasmus. He's the one who's
All right, there you go. Let me retrieve my microphone here. Okay, hold on, guys. And so you've heard. Okay. I think I'm going to be able to move this mic. Okay.
Why did I
There